Anbernics have announced yet another retro gaming handheld console, the RG353P, but does it look any good? Anbernics have been coming out with a huge amount of retro handheld consoles in the past 12 months, with the likes of the RG552, the RG503, we've been hearing about development of the Win600, and now we're hearing about the RG353P, which looks like it could be the successor to the 351 series. Now the first thing to notice is that the RG353P looks exactly like the S30, and this is a very interesting console design. I think it's kind of love it or hate it. For me, I always thought the S30 looked like those cheaper consoles you can get on AliExpress, but Anbernics is well known in the retro gaming handheld community, and if it continues with the success of the 351, it could be an awesome console. One thing I do find really interesting though is that Anbernics always seem to be stable in their design of consoles. They were always going for that kind of brick shape, with the exception of the vertical formats and some of the smaller consoles that they created. However, in 2022 they seem to have just thrown that form factor idea out the window, and they're going wild with some of their designs. The RG503 started to take things in a more curved direction. The Win600 looks like it's going to be a more traditional gaming handheld PC style, and the 353P looks like a SNES controller. Like we said, it follows the S30 stylizations, and I like this. I like that Anbernics are doing this. It shows me that they're not afraid to try and change things up. They're not stuck in one single form factor or one single style that works for them. A lot of people say Anbernics are stretching themselves too thin and kind of throwing out consoles left, right and center when none of them are fully hitting the mark, but I genuinely think that they're in a kind of trial phase, trying out new concepts and ideas, seeing what works, seeing what the community likes, and hopefully taking on board those comments. Now the thing I'm really excited to hear about the 353P is that it is dual Android and Linux operating system, and this is brilliant. This puts it in direct competition to the likes of the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus and takes it a huge step up from the 351 and the 503. Anbernics first introduced the dual system in the 552 model, and although it had its issues, I absolutely love the option of being able to play games through Android as well, and I think the emulation really benefits from this. The RG503 struggled when it came to N64 and Dreamcast emulation, and people in the community said that was because it was running on Linux. The Android emulators are much more successful at this kind of emulation, so this makes me really hopeful that the 353P can be a lot more comfortable when it comes to N64 and Dreamcast emulation. One area of concern though is that the RG353 runs with the RK3566 processor, and this is the same processor that was running in the RG503, which is a less powerful processor than the T310 that we get in the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. This means that although the 353P might be a direct competitor to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, it might struggle to keep up with the emulation powers of the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. Another thing that puts the 353 in the same kind of category as the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is that it maintains itself as a highly pocketable device, keeping the aesthetic of the 3.5 screen that we knew from the 351 series. But one thing is absolutely certain: if Anbernics want the 353P to compete with the likes of the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, they absolutely must make sure it is at around about that $99 mark. If it's anything more than that, I think they're really going to struggle to have an argument against buying the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus instead. Now if you want to see the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus review for more details, then check it out over here, and make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on future awesome content.